Hey there, if you're a health coach and you're not getting the results you'd hoped for, and or you're feeling that you're underprepared to work with clients in some way, you might be sitting there thinking to yourself, if I just had more advanced training and knowledge in topics such as nutrigenomics, organic acids testing, hair tissue mineral analysis, and on, I would probably be in a better position to serve clients. Okay, I will be the first to admit that these types of training programs are indeed informative, useful, and necessary in certain scenarios, and I don't discourage anybody from pursuing them. But what if I told you that you don't need them to be an amazing functional health coach, and that there are 3 far simpler things that you can begin doing right now that will likely lead to much more profound results than you could ever imagine? And what if I told you that these 3 things are far more important in the client-practitioner relationship and getting results with your clients than the advanced trainings I listed above? I'm talking about 3 powerful strategies that are so simple that they are often widely overlooked or not taken seriously enough. And in this video, I'm going to share them with you. I'm Jennifer Ellis Schutz, and you're watching the Wellness Code Academy channel, where I chat about innovative ways to support health and well-being and be the best versions of ourselves from both the client and the practitioner perspective. And if this video resonates with you, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified so that you don't miss a week's featured video. Okay, so strategy number 1 is talk less, listen more. Both my personal and professional experience with chronic illness have taught me that prescriptive recommendations are not what really lead to transformation and helping clients create sustainable wellness in their lives. This is a reductionist and myopic approach, to say the least. One of the most critical first steps, if not the most critical, in the healing process is being truly listened to with no judgment or agenda attached. But the truth of the matter is that most health practitioners are simply not trained well enough in the art of deep listening, even functional-minded practitioners. Furthermore, it is human nature to not deeply listen, but rather jump quickly to fixing, solving, and giving recommendations to problems. It is also human nature for people to want to be fixed, or at least think that is what they want. Now, while there is certainly a time and place for fixing, solving, and giving recommendations in urgent situations and other specific scenarios, and all of these often seem helpful and necessary on the surface, when people are struggling with chronic health challenges and coming to practitioners for guidance, it really is not ultimately effective, and it takes people out of their power and autonomy. I've come to believe that at the core of chronic health challenges most often lies a loss of agency and empowerment, which then perpetuates feelings of hopelessness and despair. And these emotional states of being fuel desperation, a continued search for answers outside of oneself, and many times, very frantic, uninformed, desperate decision making. The last thing people struggling with chronic health issues need is further disempowerment and further dependent on others to fix them. This said, a first step in recovery from anything is the discovery, or rediscovery for that matter, of personal agency, which is essentially the realization that one has more power to positively influence their mental, emotional, and physical well-being than they've ever been led to believe. And a critical first step in this happening is for the practitioner to show up in the client-practitioner relationship in a way that naturalizes and embodies self-empowerment. And this begins with deep listening, with no agenda to fix, rescue, or change anything out the gate. It begins with creating and holding a safe space for our clients to express all they need and want to express, while we simply listen, reflect back what we hear, and practice the art of true empathy, which is essentially putting ourselves in the shoes of another and seeing the world and their experiences through their lens. But what exactly do we need to listen for? Well, we need to listen for nuances of their story so that we can learn their mindset. In other words, we need to gain an understanding of how they relate to their current situation, as well as what has transpired in the past. Sure, it's absolutely important to know the practicalities of what happened, such as mold exposures, infections, what interventional strategies they've tried and didn't try, specific lab results, etc. But more importantly, we need to gain a solid understanding of how they've responded to and continue to respond to adversity, and how that is playing out on the level of their nervous system and psyche, and how all this feeds into their biology and continued struggles. As Bruce Lipton so eloquently teaches in his book, Biology of Belief, our neurology becomes our biology and vice versa. Breaking this cycle and not being yet another failed protocol on a client's belt all begins with talking less and listening more. And from this space, you will gain a much clearer picture of how best to help your clients free themselves from hidden subconscious patterns that are likely preventing them from being able to implement necessary shifts and keeping them stuck in their health and their life. Next up is go back to the basics. So I've observed that it's often popular practice to order tons of labs and create extravagant supplement protocols. This is often the tendency and temptation of both the practitioner and the client. And what falls by the wayside when this happens? The very fundamental pillars of health and wellness that must be established in order to create a solid foundation for health to happen in the first place. So what are these fundamental pillars that I'm speaking of? Well, we have a growth mindset, positive social connection, eating to reduce inflammation, circadian rhythm, sleep optimization, healthy sun exposure, stress reduction and nervous system regulation, movement, embodiment, and mindfulness practices, connection to nature, and toxic exposure reduction, such as from processed foods, personal care products, cookware, unpurified drinking water, blue light, electromagnetic frequencies, social media and information overload, and more. It truly is amazing how many toxins we're all constantly being bombarded by, to the point that they are draining our vital reserves. Yet, we often don't even realize it because many of them are really, really silent. So this is where we start, laying a foundation upon which we can build a healing protocol that, down the line, can include, if necessary, standard functional diagnostic testing and corresponding supplement and detoxification protocols. What I have found to be true, however, is that often when these fundamental pillars are addressed and integrated, truly dialed in on, then the list of labs, supplements, and detoxification protocols tends to shrink considerably, becomes much more affordable and less overwhelming, and also many times, if not all the time, way more effective. So the key takeaway here is this: partner with your clients to do a thorough assessment of where they are at in relation to each of these fundamental pillars. Just as we can't expect to grow a vital and abundant garden without first nourishing the soil, we can't expect our clients to heal and experience sustainable wellness without these fundamental pillars in place. And last, but certainly not least, is prioritize mindset. So in my last point, I purposely placed a growth mindset at the top of the list of the fundamental pillars of health and wellness. But what exactly is mindset, and why is it at the top of the list? Well, my definition of mindset is this: the beliefs, attitudes, and thoughts one embraces about themselves, their circumstances, and the world, and how these perspectives influence how they respond to the events in their lives, especially amidst challenging times. I've come to learn that mindset is likely the greatest determinant of one's resilience, ability to overcome hardship, heal from chronic illness, and create personal success in their lives. And why is this? Well, at the top of the list of the most influential inputs upon our genetic expression, aside from diet, lifestyle habits, relationships, and factors in our environment is the way we think about ourselves, our situations, and life in general, which is essentially our mindset. How we think consistently plays a large role in how we feel mentally and emotionally. And our mental and emotional states play an integral role in creating the climate of the inner terrain of our bodies. And this inner terrain is a large determining factor in cellular function and thus genetic expression. And mindset is a muscle. We must work to develop it and keep it in shape just as we do other muscles in our body, which is exactly the reason why I chose the topic of mindset to be at the top of the list. And deep healing will simply not happen from a space of stress-based thinking, destructive behavioral patterns, and unresolved trauma. Anyway, all this said, running labs, taking supplements, doing detoxification protocols, and more are all indeed integral components for restoring health. But true healing goes way beyond these biochemical interventions. It requires that we address all aspects of our being, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And to be able to do this, we need the right growth mindset in place so that a biochemical-based interventional strategy that we do implement can be effective. In closing, if this is not how you've been working with clients thus far, and these seem like overwhelming, monumental shifts to make, rest assured you are not alone. I was once right where you are. It is in fact quite rare for this approach and these skills to be taught as thoroughly as they need to be within most health coach certification training programs. This said, if you reflect upon what I've shared with you and begin making incremental changes in your approach starting now, you will see client outcomes improve. And this will fuel both your motivation and inspiration to keep going, because nothing breeds success like success. And if you're eager to immerse yourself in a training that does take you on a deep dive into this style of coaching and so much more, then I encourage you to check out my training, The Wellness Code, at wellnesscodeacademy.com. And I'm also offering an amazing free mini training right now that you can find on that same website. Anyway, that's a wrap for this week's video. Once again, be sure to subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more of my content. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, be well and be empowered.